As spawning in the top left-hand corner of Dragon Scales, we have the South Korean Zerg player representing on Side Gaming. It is Solar. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have as opponent, we have the Red Protoss representing Team Liquid. It is SKillous. We go. Again, for those wondering, this is basically a battle for first place. The group is quite large, a lot of players in each group, of course, but both Solar and SKillous have been performing quite well indeed. I haven't really been dropping to anyone. They both took down a Hero Marine respectively. They both took down Big Gabe. And now we are here to determine who is going to be on top, who is going to be on the bottom. I say on the bottom, you know, first and second, basically. We'll see. As for now, Solar is forced to take the unnatural. Natural here over the right-hand side of the map is going to be a hatch gas pool. Nothing too crazy. Likewise, SKillous setting up for a gate expand. I appreciate that we're on a bit of a different map this time. We're on a smaller map like Dragon Scales. Can lead to a lot of aggression. A big example of that is what we saw last game out of Trigger. He was basically going for a 3-base all-in against Fiant, going for an 8-gate. Just 8-gate Blink Stalkers. Of course, because the game went on so long, he eventually incorporated Charge Lots as well and got Archons. But again, for the most part, a very aggressive style out of Trigger, and we could see the same here at a SKillous. I say could, again, I don't get to cast too much of SKillous. I get to cast him like in these major events and OSC King of the Hills every now and then. But nothing too major outside of that. So it's been a hot minute. Since we've been able to... I've had the luxury of casting SKillous. And we'll see what he's going to be going for here, especially because the meta of PvZ has been shifting over time. Outside of, you know, Stargate openers into Blink Stalkers, we had an era of maybe... It's weird to say, but like... there was a period of maybe like 2 to 3 weeks where a lot of the Protoss players were actually messing around with a double robo play, where you open up with Twilight Council, you open up with Blink Stalkers, but you skip warp ins, you stay defensive on 3 bases, you get a 4th base, you get up to double robo production, and you work on your Colossi instead. You hit a very strong power spike with 2, eventually 4 Colossi. And that was really trendy. That was really trendy for almost a month. Maybe around July-ish, or June-ish, sorry. But after that, it kind of fell off. You know, like the Zerg players, they got used to it, so they got used to shutting it down. I say shutting it down. The biggest weakness of that is that because you're so passive, you kind of give a lot of freedom and a lot of breathing room to the Zerg to do whatever they want. And as soon as Zerg players started catching on to that build, they just would take the map, they would take all their bases, they would tech up into Hive and rush into Vipers. And as soon as they got the Vipers out, as you can imagine, Colossi had a really hard time being anywhere near as effective. So it's a build that we see every now and then nowadays, but it's not something that players rely on too much anymore. But I guess it is good to mix into a best of series, especially a longer series. Until then though, for now, Stargate opener, we have Oracles, second Oracle's on the way. Interesting move here by SKillous. He is intentionally keeping his first Oracle back at home, but this is going to be scouted. This is going to be confirmed here by Solar. I was about to say that because he's keeping it back at home, the likelihood of Solar being ready with Spores and with Queens and ready for any kind of Oracle play is that much lower. As we just bide our time for 2 Oracles to move out instead. But because of the Overlord Scout, Solar, he throws down immediately 1 Spore in the main, 1 Spore at the 3rd base. There are Queens in position, 3 in the main, and 2 at the 3rd. As the Oracle dive in between them. And the Oracles are looking for damage, and oh, the Natural is looking very exposed. 3 drones go down already. The Queens, they were pulled over towards the Natural. The 3rd base is looking quite vulnerable as well. But I spoke too soon. The Spore putting in a lot of work. An Oracle falls, but oh my god. Solar was late to pull back those drones. 8 workers go down. 8 workers for 1 Oracle. Not too bad. I want to say an even trade is like 7 drones for 1 Oracle is more of an even trade. So maybe a little bit better here for SKillous. We'll see if he does replace that Oracle. I think something that's really interesting is that SKillous did not go for a triple Oracle opener, which is the standard. He's going to be cutting here at 2. Does mean he has extra gas to work with. He's throwing down additional gateways behind this as well, working on Blink. Interesting. There's no +1. There is no Forge. There is no +1. This is looking like the beginnings of a 3-base 8-gate all-in. The reason why I say that is because, one, of course, we're rushing into Blink, but with no upgrades, there's no longevity to this army, but I'm speaking too soon because Solar is going for his own all-in instead. Off of 38 workers, he is not re-droning after losing so many. He's had enough. He's going for a massive push here. Roaches, Queens, Ravagers, and Lings. But again, unfortunately, he's going up against a player that was focusing on their own army as well. SKillous wasn't being too economic. He wasn't being too greedy. Stay strapped. It goes off on the Lings. Shield batteries are on the way. They're about to finish up. The Queens are looking exposed as well. Without creep, they cannot transfuse. Queens are falling. A couple of Lings managed to get into the main base, but the boys are being pulled so far. No major damage is done. And even then, Solar, he has a lot of workers to kill to even equalize. Yeah, again, these shield batteries putting in a lot of work. The Lings and Ravagers, they're being thinned out. GG gets called. SKillous, he shuts down that push and he takes game number 1. GG. Oh. Not gonna lie, I was expecting for longer games. I was ready for it. I topped up on my water. But yeah, GG, well played. SKillous, I'm pretty sure he was working towards his own 3-base all-in. He was getting ready for that. Meanwhile, Solar, after losing so many drones, he decided to cut his losses, went for his own big push instead, and SKillous, he saw it coming ahead of time. And not just that, but again, he was also building up his own army. Happened to really shape up well against what Solar was up to. And he does take a lead in the series. Again, it's only a best of 3, so SKillous, he only needs 1 more win to take the series. Solar needs to bring it back here and now. And here we go. Spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Gressvan, we have the South Korean Zerg player representing Onside Gaming. It is Solar. And spawning in the top left, we have his opponent. We have the red Protoss player representing Team Liquid, leading the series 1-0. It is SKillous. Again, fortunate that he was being aggressive against an all-in, of all things. Very nice. It didn't work out very well for SKillous in the end. And now Solar's on the back foot. He is on the back foot here as he's going for a hatch first. Just making sure he wasn't getting blocked. And we are loading into Gressvan as well, a much larger map. We talk a lot about how this map can really lead to longer games and later games, but that is mainly applicable to Zerg versus Terran. It can apply a little bit to Zerg versus Protoss, but on the flip side of things, we have been seeing a lot of aggression on this map. We have been seeing a lot of, you know, like 3-base saturated Zerg players just making nothing but roaches, nothing but Lings, trying to overwhelm the Protoss. Similar to last game as well, we've seen a lot of Queen pushes on this map. I do think that a big reason for that is just because players just don't want the game to go on any longer. They don't want to go to the late game. So we'll see. We'll see if the players are willing. SKillous is sending his probe across the map. Again, a bit of a later probe scout, especially in current meta. It's so common to send your probe immediately across the map to deny the hatchery, but we don't see it this time. SKillous, he's gracious enough to allow Solar to expand. Oh, such a nice guy. Beautiful. He's able to get his natural base up and running. SKillous mixing things up. Game 2, Twilight Council. Twilight Council, not a Stargate, so once again, very aggressive build here from SKillous. He's even being a bit of a nuisance, just delaying the third base a little bit longer for a couple of seconds. And we'll be keeping an eye on SKillous to see how committed this is going to be. Robo is thrown down. Twilight Council have to finish up. So far, we haven't pulled out of gas yet. Again, we have options here to go into a Dark Shrine opener. We can go for Glaive Adepts. We do have those options available. Across the map, SKillous just going to be poking and prodding. I'm pretty sure this is going to be for DTs. I mean, the probe is here to throw down another building. And there it is. Dark Shrine is thrown down. This is lined up. So the way this works is the Prism is going to be moving out across the map. By the time the Prism gets across the map, the Dark Shrine is finishing, and we can warp DTs on the front lines. We can warp in the Invisible Man. Oh boy. And Solar is none the wiser. Now, there is a Stalker here at the wall. There is a Stalker on the low ground. This is a tell that it's going to be a Twilight Council opener. A bit of a tell. It doesn't mean for sure that it is, but it kind of leads into that. As Solar is going to be denied the Overlord Scouts, but he has an Overlord here dipping into the main. Solar should get eyes on this. Again, very important that Solar had another Scout available. He does get eyes on the Twilight Council. And as he moves south, he does get eyes on the Dark Shrine as well. Immediately, spores are thrown down back at home. We have one for each base. Roach Warren on the way. And with these spores finishing up, Solar should be ready for this. Now, we can still find damage. SKillous can attempt to catch units here in between the bases. Is something that can be done. As he heads towards the natural, is looking to dive on that spore, and he is going to get a good surface area. Uh-oh. Damage is being done. Good transfuse on the spore. Just barely keeps it alive. Up! And the Prism is focused down. A big loss for SKillous. That wasn't just the Prism. That was three High Templar. 3 Dark Templar. Ay, ay, ay. Terrible start for SKillous. His opener didn't pay for itself. Thankfully, he's going to be able to get this third base up and running. We have DTs defensively back at home. The Prism is on the way. Archon being morphed in. SKillous, he's got a lot of catching up to do. He has a lot of catching up to do. Now, this is also the power of the Dark Shrine opener, is that you do have an Archon follow-up. With this Archon drop, you can hunt down Overlords, you can snipe Queens, you can get Lings, you can get Drones. There is potential with this drop. It's just there's so much pressure on SKillous to make something happen. Up. And so far he gets a Queen. Pretty high energy Queen at that. Not too bad. Not a bad start. At the same time, Solo goes for a scout into the main. Doesn't see too much. I mean, there's not much to see.
The Hive cluster is under attack.
As he does miss the Robo, the Robotic Spay. Should be working towards Colossi or even Disruptors. There it is. Disruptors are in production. It does make a lot of sense, especially against a Roach-heavy composition. When you have so little units available, SKillous, he needs Disruptors to defend. And Solar, he's going to be able to have a lot of breathing room here. He's able to drone up with 3 bases. He's getting his 4th on the way. We have a Bailey Nest. We'll see if Solar drones up any further than this. Earlier I was talking about how on Gressvan it's very common for Well, I say very common. You know, it's not unheard of for Zerg players to just drone up on 3 bases, which is, you know, around 70 or sub 70 drones, and just make nothing but Roach Ravager. Solar has hit that 70 worker count, but he's droning up a little bit further. Especially after SKillous lost his initial DTs, it's very possible that Solar could be working towards one big push towards that third to try to end him then and there. There it is. We do work up towards 72. Nah, we're droning up more. Okay. We are going to be saturating our fourth. Which means Solar should be working eventually towards a hive. This does feel like a late infestation pit. A very exposed infestation pit as well. Disruptors have arrived. Oh! 2 Novas go off. No connections. As Solar is distracted, the Stalkers, they do move in, just taking down some of these active tumors. And thankfully, SKillous did leave Archons back at home to defend. The Lings don't find too much damage. Disruptors have been revealed, and yeah, this Hive is going to be a bit delayed, but there we go, the Hive is on the way. Solar, he desperately needs Vipers if he wants to try to contest against these Disruptors. Contend against the Disruptors even. Meanwhile, the drop play still hasn't found any value. Not yet. But there's always potential. You know, we could see a juicy connection on the army. We could be seeing a juicy connection in the mineral line. Purification Novas. They can pop off. But for now, Solar's doing a great job of just keeping up. Making sure SKillous doesn't get out of hand. Up! As Nova will go off, and a good connection here. Taking down some Roaches, taking down a Ravager. Oh my god. That was actually 3 Roaches, 1 Ravager, 3 drones, 10 Banelings, a handful of Lings. Very nice connections. I mean, Solar's about to max out anyway. Like, he can afford some losses. He is maxing out. He's up to 86 workers on 5 bases. The Hive is now done. And the first 2 Vipers are on the way. I don't know if you saw that, but Solar did cancel some units to make room for Vipers. He's aware of how important they are. The Bathing Run by doesn't make it into the mineral line. SKillous barely able to keep up. Oh. Okay. Well, that's a little bit concerned, but we're going to get a couple of tumors here for these Disruptors. Again, we're just keeping Solar busy, keeping him back at home. Meanwhile, SKillous, he's fortifying himself so heavily. This is the advantage of Gressvan. We were talking about it before. Because of the high ground, because of just the choke points as well. We have cannons, gateways, shield batteries. It's looking almost impossible to try to break any of these bases, whether it's the 3rd or the 4th. Oof. The Disruptor goes down as well. Now, this is the ideal scenario for Solar. Solar, he wants to fight out on the map. He wants to surround. Can he get one? That's a lot of Archons. Here we go. The Vipers are looking for that abduct. But there are so many Disruptors. The Novas go off. The Novas go off. They find their connections. They take down the entire Roach army. The Vipers are getting sniped. And SKillous, mate, he can keep on pushing. Oof. He cannot keep on pushing. The Biles, they don't take down the prison. Solar has a massive bank, but he needs time. He cannot remax. Another massive connection on those Ravagers. SKillous, he's pushing on through. We have a lot of Banelings finishing up. Oof. And the Banelings, they do crash into the Archons of all things. Not the most efficient trades. The Stalkers, they get on top of the Roaches, they get on top of the Ravagers. It looks like SKillous is doing it. Up. We have some reinforcements. They're trickling in. Solar, can he hold? He's trying to desperately. But it's just too much. GG gets called. And SKillous will take the series 2-0. to 0. Oh my god. GG, well played. SKillous, honestly, wasn't looking too hot that game. We saw quite a lot of blunders there, with his Dark Templar not doing any damage, the Archon drop not really getting too much value either. Same with the Disruptor drop. We saw like 1 or 2 good connections with it, really 1 good connection, but that was it. The Vipers had arrived. Solar had everything he needed, but he wasn't quite ready for an attack on his side of the map. Things snowballed and things escalated very quickly. And yeah, SKillous, he was able to just barely hit his timing, right? Any longer, and Solar, he would have been able to refine his army, tech into Lurkers, tech into Broodlords, get more Vipers out. Oh, GG. GG, well played. And with that, SKillous, I believe he'll be taking first place in this group, but we still have to figure out the other players and the other standings as well. As we are done with SKillous and Solar for the night, and we're going to be hopping on over into Hero Marine versus Trigger.